Luke didn't expect much from the jungle planet. He had been sent there for a 3-month assignment, maintenance duty, system checks. Nothing special. The science base was hidden deep in thick green trees, built by humans to study the local wildlife, but no one talked much about the big cage at the far end of the lab building. They just called it the vault. Inside the vault was something not from the jungle. Something strange. Something alive. They called her K-47. The first time Luke saw her, he stopped in his tracks. Behind the glass wall stood a tall, strong alien with gray-blue skin and thick silver hair tied in braids. Her eyes were wide, golden like fire, and her muscles moved like a wild animal ready to strike. Her arms had light fur from shoulder to elbow, and her nails looked like claws. She wore simple metal cuffs around her wrists and ankles, and a collar with blinking lights. She stared at him. No, not just stared. She watched him, careful, said one of the older techs, handing him a power tool. Don't get too close. To the glass, she almost broke through last month when someone tried to take blood. Luke nodded and said nothing, but he stayed back longer than needed, eyes locked with hers. Something about her felt different, not just a wild alien creature. There was something behind those eyes, something that felt aware. In the next few days, Luke learned more. The scientists hadn't captured her. She had been brought here by a deep space patrol ship that found her in a crashed escape pod. They couldn't speak with her, but they saw she was dangerous, fast, strong, able to tear through steel if angry. So they locked her in. Specimen shows no sign of understanding speech, one of the doctors said. She's not intelligent, but Luke wasn't sure. He began taking her food once a day. Others avoided it. Nervous around her, Luke didn't mind. He brought her plain nutrient packs and sat on a bench outside the glass, talking even though she never replied. I don't know your name, he said one afternoon, but I don't think you like being called specimen. That's not fair. She blinked slowly, eyes still locked on him. He slid the tray under the small slot and waited. She came forward, took the food, then returned to the back of her cage. That happened for 4 days. On the 5th day, everything changed. As Luke placed the tray under the slot, he noticed her standing closer this time, not at the back, just a few feet from the opening. Her golden eyes stared into his, not blinking. She didn't move to grab the food. Instead, she knelt slightly, like she was trying to make herself smaller. Luke swallowed. You okay? Still no answer. On impulse, maybe because he felt sorry for her, maybe because he saw the sadness behind those fierce eyes, he reached out and lightly tapped her shoulder through the opening. Not hard, not rough, just a gentle pat, like saying it's okay. Then he pulled his hand back quickly. The moment froze. She stood up slowly, not angry, not wild. Instead, she reached toward the tray, picked up the food, and nodded. Luke didn't move. Was that a yes? She didn't answer, but her eyes had changed. Something in them was softer. The next day, things got strange. When Luke walked in, she was already at the front of the glass, waiting. When someone else passed by, she growled, loud, deep. The worker laughed nervously and walked faster. Later, when another staff member dropped a box too loudly behind Luke, she slammed her hand against the glass. It shook the walls. The doctor called it a reaction spike, but Luke knew better. She was protecting him. Luke told himself not to imagine things, but the pattern kept growing. She followed his movements with her eyes. She refused food from anyone else, and once, when someone joked about her being his alien dog, she bared her teeth at them from inside the vault. Even locked up, she made people nervous. You should stop going there so often, one guard said. She's picking up your scent or something. Maybe, Luke said, though he didn't believe that was all. A week later, the storm came. Outside, lightning crashed inside the base. Systems went down one by one. Lights flickered, doors failed, and alarms started to ring. Luke was helping with power backups when the vault alarm blared. Containment breach. He ran there before anyone else could. The glass wall was cracked. The backup lock had failed. Her cage was open, and she was gone. She's loose, Someone shouted behind him, "Fall back." Luke turned the corner and stopped. She was there, not running, not attacking. Standing in front of him, still, calm. He raised his hands. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." She looked at him, and then she stepped forward and stood in front of him like a wall between him and the hallway. "What are you doing?" he whispered. Shouts came from the hallway. "Armed guards," she growled, low and deep. Her stance widened. "Don't hurt anyone," Luke begged. But she didn't look back at him. Her eyes were locked on the hallway. And when the guards shouted, she grabbed Luke gently but firmly, lifted him like he weighed nothing, and ran. She didn't run wild. She didn't crash through walls. She dodged, slipped past doors, used shadows like she knew the base by heart. Her feet were silent, her breathing steady. In 5 minutes, they were gone past the base, into the trees, swallowed by the jungle. Luke was breathless. Why? Why did you take me?" She placed him down in a hidden cave, safe from the rain. And then, for the first time, she spoke. Her voice was rough, broken, but clear enough. "Safe." Luke pressed his back to the cool cave wall, breathing hard. Water dripped from cracks overhead, tapping the stone like a slow clock. Outside, the jungle hissed with night insects. But the storm that had wrecked the base generators was fading to a soft murmur of distant thunder. The only light came from a small bioluminescent moss patch glowing pale green near the entrance. Yashar, he still thought of her as K-47, though the code felt wrong. Knelt by the opening, shoulders tense, gold eyes scanning the darkness. Her silver hair clung to her cheek in wet ropes. The loose collar around her neck flashed a low red signal every few seconds, warning anyone with a tracker that she was free. Luke swallowed. "They might trace that thing," he whispered. She glanced back, head tilting at his voice, but his words meant little to her yet. Still, she seemed to understand his unease. With one quick claw, she tapped the collar casing. Tap. Tappan gave a short growl of annoyance. Then she turned away again, guarding. Minutes stretched. Luke's heart slowed, but the tremble in his hands stayed. He forced them still. "You saved me," he said softly. The cave echoed his simple words. But she did not turn. Perhaps the praise embarrassed her, or perhaps she was listening for hunters. Remembering field training, Luke dug in his utility belt and pulled out an emergency glow stick. He cracked it, and soft blue light filled the space. Yashar hissed quiet, warning him. He understood. No bright beacons to betray them. He covered the stick with both palms, letting only a faint glow seep through his fingers. His stomach growled. Next, the sound felt embarrassing in front of a warrior who had carried him through enemy lines. He held up a ration bar, then motioned, offering half. She sniffed, frowned, and shook her head. Instead, she rose and padded deeper into the cave, disappearing into darkness that even his glow stick could not cut. Luke tensed until she returned 2 minutes later with a cluster of yellow fruit, each no bigger than a child's fist. She laid them carefully before him. Showing gratitude, he split one and tasted a sliver sweet, almost like mango, but spiced with mint. Relief washed over his tongue. He ate slowly, leaving half the pile for her, but she only watched, nodding once when he pointed at the fruit, and said, "Good." Outside, mechanical whirring drifted through the jungle. Search drones. Luke's pulse spiked again. Yashara stood tall, for long, her forearms raising. She pressed a finger to her lips. Strange. She had seen humans use that gesture and copied it, then moved to the cave mouth. She scanned the sky, ducking just as a drone's red beam swept the treetops. Luke crouched low, covering the blue glow stick with a spare bit of cloth. His mind raced through engineers' problem lists. How many drones? How wide their scan arc? Battery life, signal bounce. He wished he had the tablet from the base, but that was lost in the chaos. The drones. Beam passed again, this time dipping lower. Yashara flattened against the rock, shadows blending with her gray-blue skin. Luke could almost feel the heat of the searchlight brush the cave lip. He held his breath. In that heartbeat, he understood the fragile thread between capture and freedom. Then the beam shifted away. The drone engines faded, whining into the distance. Yashara exhaled, and only then did Luke notice she had been holding her breath too. He relaxed, shoulders slumping. She looked back, met his eyes, and gave the smallest nod. Danger passed for now. Luke's chest warmed. They were truly operating as partners, even with scarcely any shared words. Time crawled toward midnight. The storm outside had cooled the air, and damp fog crept over the cave threshold. Luke shivered. Yashara noticed, rummaged in a corner, and returned with broad, waxy leaves layered like a blanket. She draped them across his shoulders, water-beaded, and rolled off the top surfaces. He smiled. "Thank you," he said slowly, pointing to the leaves. Then to his heart, "Thank you." She did not repeat the words, but she tapped his shoulder again where he had first patted her in the lab. The meaning was clear. Bond remembered. Luke felt exhaustion arrive all at once, hours of sprinting, fear, cold rain, shock. His eyelids drooped. He fought it, thinking he should stand guard, yet every muscle rebelled. Yashara seemed to read the struggle. She motioned him to lie near the moss light, then took position at the mouth again, crouched yet unyielding. "Wake me if—" "Danger," Luke murmured. His voice cracked, but he doubted she understood. Still he trusted her. Oddly, that trust felt natural, as if his heart had known it since the first time their eyes met through glass. He lowered himself onto the stone, using his pack as a pillow. The leaves insulated his back from chill rock. The moss light dimmed. In his fading vision, before sleep claimed him, he heard a new sound, Yashara humming. The tune was low, rising and falling like wind through tall grass. Perhaps a lullaby from her world. Perhaps a song of watchers in the night. The melody wrapped around him like soft cloth, and he drifted away. Luke woke with a start some time later, unsure how long he had slept. Yashara was still at the entrance, but her posture had shifted, one knee down, head bowed, as if meditating. Moonlight filtered through tattered clouds outside, turning the jungle silver. Search drones were gone for now. He rose quietly and walked to her side, careful not to alarm. She sensed him anyway and opened her eyes. They reflected the moon's glow, bright like twin candles. She turned her gaze upward at the sky, then pointed, drawing a curved line with her claw. "Many suns," she whispered, voice hushed. Luke followed her finger, imagining constellations he could not see through the leaves. He guessed she was showing him her homeward star path. He too lifted a finger, traced Earth's direction, though he had no idea which way it lay from here. He felt foolish, but she watched, nodding, accepting the gesture. Bridges of understanding built one sign at a time. He sat beside her. She reached into a pouch at her waist, a simple cloth scrap she must have grabbed during the breakout, and pulled out a small carved token, a flat stone etched with swirling patterns. She placed it in his palm. The surface was smooth except for a raised spiral at the center. Luke rubbed it, feeling sudden warmth, as if the stone kept the memory of her son. "What is it?" he asked. She spoke a word he could not catch, then tapped the spiral, then tapped his chest. Finally, she pointed to herself. He guessed, a pledge, a shared emblem. He closed his fist around it, nodding deeply. "I will keep it safe." A faint smile touched her lips, so fleeting he nearly missed it. Rustling in the trees broke the quiet moment. Yashara stiffened. Distant voices, human voices, echoed through the trunks. Not drones this time. Actual patrol squads. Searchers had fanned wider while they slept. Luke's gut twisted. They could not stay here for dawn. He whispered, "We need a better hiding place." He held up both hands, fingers, walking in midair, then pointed away from the cave. Yashara assessed the forest, nose twitching for wind direction. She retrieved a slim branch, drew in the dirt. Their cave is a circle. Search parties like arrows converging, and a larger cave symbol deeper in the hills. She tapped that larger mark and rose. Luke slung his pack. He extinguished the moss patch, light by covering it with a flat stone. Yashara gathered the remaining fruit into a leaf pouch, then led the way. Outside, the earth was still wet, but the night air smelled fresh, washed clean. They advanced quietly, Luke copying her toe heel. Steps to leave little trace. Each time a twig snapped, Yashara froze, studied shadows, then gestured him on. Once they crawled beneath thick ferns while patrol passed 30 meters uphill. Flashlights waving, Luke held his breath until his lungs burned. He counted heartbeats and thought of home. Only when the last footfalls faded did he dare inhale. Hours later, or maybe only one, time felt strange. They reached a steep ravine cut by a narrow stream. Yashara pointed to a hidden overhang halfway up the slope. Vines draped down like curtains. Behind them, a small dry chamber waited, the new shelter she had drawn. Luke climbed after her, boots slipping on wet stone. She caught his wrist once, steadying him with ease. Inside, the chamber proved larger than expected, big enough for two in their packs. She inspected cracks for creatures, found none, then settled by the entrance. Luke peered through the vines. Searchlights still pricked the valley floor, but none looked their way. He slumped in relief. "Thank you," he whispered again. Though the words felt small for what she risked, Yashara glanced over, pointed. At his closed fist the stone token. He opened his hand. It glowed faintly in moon-dusted light. She touched it once, then touched his shoulder, repeating the gentle pat he had given her in the lab. The gesture felt like a circle completed. Luke's eyes stung not from smoke or wind, but something deeper. He cleared his throat. "I'll keep watch now," he offered. Though fatigue pulled at him, she considered, then nodded and curled. In a half-rest pose, ears still alert, as he sat by the curtain of vines. Luke realized the line between captive and guardian had blurred forever. He rubbed the spiral token, heart steadying. Somewhere beyond the ridge lay tomorrow, full of unknown dangers, but tonight they had a fragile peace and a growing trust, and that, he decided, was enough to keep hope alive till dawn. Luke sat at the mouth of the ravine chamber, the vine curtain swaying in a cool breeze. Night's deepest hour had passed, but darkness still ruled the jungle. He held the slim branch Yashara had used to draw in the dirt, rolling it between nervous fingers. Every distant crack of a twig made his pulse jump. Yashara slept or half-slept behind him. Even in rest she curled like a spring, claws loose but ready, ears twitching when low noises drifted from the valley. Moonlight slipped through gaps in the leaves and painted silver stripes across her gray-blue skin. Luke watched her for a quiet minute, amazed that this fierce warrior had carried him, fed him, and now trusted him enough to close her eyes. A soft buzz broke the peace. Luke peered through the vines. To search drones glided just above the tree line. Redskin beams slicing the mist, they moved in a slow grid, sweeping every few meters. Luke's breath caught. The drones were closer. Then before someone was tightening the search pattern. He ducked back and considered the foil emergency blanket in his pack. The silver sheet could mask body heat if wrapped tight, but its shiny surface might also reflect any stray light from the drones, drawing attention. Risky. Still, he unfolded it and draped it around his shoulders like a cloak, hoping the vines would hide the reflection. He crawled deeper into the chamber, gently shaking Yashara's shoulder. She jolted awake, eyes wide, but relaxed when she saw him. Luke put a finger over his lips, the human sign she had copied earlier, then pointed toward the entrance and traced a small circle in the air. Drone. She understood. She rose without a sound and crouched beside him, gaze sharp. A red beam flickered through the vines for half a second, lighting dust in the air. Luke froze. Yashara held her breath too. The beam vanished as quickly as it came. Moving on, minutes crept by. Finally the faint buzz faded downstream. Luke exhaled, shoulders sagging. He looked at Yashara and gave a small thumbs up. She studied the gesture, then mirrored it awkwardly. The copy made him grin despite the danger. Dawn bled pale pink over the treetops after the anxious night. The sky's soft colors felt like relief. Luke's stomach growled again louder. This time, Yashara retrieved more yellow fruits from her pouch and passed them over. Luke sliced one with his multi-tool, offered half back. She shook her head and pointed to his ration bar pocket. Share that instead. He handed her the bar. She bit a corner, chewed slowly, nose wrinkling at the bland taste, but swallowed with polite resolve. After they ate, Luke searched his belt kit for anything useful. He found a stub of chalk and an old survey map printed on thin fabric, mostly faded, but a few landmarks still clear. He spread it on the chamber floor. Yashara leaned in. Intrigued, he tapped their rough position by matching the ravine shape, then showed the science-based symbol farther east. With the chalk, he circled to possible routes away from patrol posts, one north toward mountains, one south toward a broken comm tower noted as decommissioned relay. He didn't push a decision, only pointed at both lines, then at her, eyebrows raised. She studied the faded symbols, lips pressed tight. At last she tapped the tower mark and made a small whistle. Like radio static, Luke interpreted communication. Maybe she guessed that humans could call help there. Or maybe she simply liked that one path stayed near water sources. Either way, it was agreement. But first they needed rest and daylight cover. Luke checked his wrist chronometer. Barely 6 a.m. Search teams would sweep harder. Once sun rose fully, he unrolled another emergency blanket, this one dark green on one side. He clipped it across the vine curtain, creating a camouflage drape that blocked heat leakage and stray reflections. Yashara ran a claw along the seam, testing strength, and nodded approval. "We wait," Luke whispered, pointing to the floor. Then, miming sleep, she replied with the same word he'd heard last. "Night, safe," just that single, steady syllable. She settled cross-legged near the entrance to rest yet stay alert. Luke lay back on his pack. Though nerves still hummed, exhaustion soon pulled him down. Before his eyes shut, he glanced at the carved stone token resting on his chest. Its spiral felt warm, maybe from his own body heat, maybe from memory of her homeland sun. He smiled faintly and slept. He woke to light rain tapping the blanket curtain. The air smelled of damp soil and flowering vines. Yashara crouched beside him, examining his multi-tool with curious fingers. On seeing him stir, she returned it. Luke stretched. His body complained, but at least he felt stronger than yesterday. They spent midday quietly. Luke scraped moss from inner rocks to add insulation against evening chill. Yashara ventured a short distance to gather more fruit and wide leaves for water collection. Each time she left the chamber, he felt a pang of worry until she slipped back through the vines, silent as mist. By afternoon, the rain stopped. Muffled voices echoed from the valley again, search parties shifting their grid. Luke peered through a high crack in the rock wall and spotted for figures in security armor, picking through undergrowth 100 meters downslope. They were too close. Luke's throat tightened. If they climbed the ravine, they would see the vines. He retreated. Yashara sensed his alarm. He pointed downslope, held up for fingers, then drew a rising line. Coming up, she understood. They needed a fall back, fortunately. The chamber's rear wall held a narrow crevice hidden by dangling roots. Yashara had noticed it earlier. She pulled at the roots, revealing a crawl space barely wide enough for a human shoulder. Luke shone his small lamp inside. A tunnel curved away through limestone, maybe an old lava tube. He counted his luck. They packed quickly fruit pouch, emergency blankets, Luke's kit. Before leaving, Yashara brushed away their footprints in the dirt and draped the vine curtain untouched. Luke followed her into the crevice, heart thudding at the tight squeeze. Stone scraped his elbows. Darkness swallowed his lamp after a few meters. Yashara moved ahead with sure sense, sometimes tapping the wall like she felt vibrations. The tunnel slanted downward, then opened into a wider pocket where cool air flowed. Here they paused, catching breath. Distant shouts faded. Maybe the patrol had missed the chamber and moved on. Luke sagged in relief. "Smart," he whispered, patting the stone token. Yashara tilted her head, unsure of the word, but understood the praise. She touched his shoulder, the same gentle pat, then resumed walking. Hours later, the tunnel climbed upward and spilled into a dense thicket far from the ravine. Sunlight angled gold through the canopy. Late afternoon already, Luke marked their new location on the fabric map, almost a kilometer west. They were closer to the comm tower path now. Thirst gnawed at them. They found a trickling spring and filled collapsible flasks. Yashara dipped a finger, tasted, nodded. Luke drank deeply. The cool water washed tension from his tongue. As they rested, he noticed her collar blinking faster, battery running low, meaning its tracker might soon fail or send emergency pings. Luke frowned. Removing it would free her and cut the signal, but the tiny shocks hidden inside could trigger. If tampered with, he studied the screws, standard human design. If he disabled the power first, Yashara watched his face. He pointed to the collar, then to his multi-tool, raised a questioning brow. She hesitated, eyes flicking to the forest as if weighing risk of him hurting her versus enemy tracking. Finally, she gave a slow nod. Luke didn't act yet. He needed steady workspace and full daylight, not fading sun. He patted his chest. Later, she accepted that. Evening shadows lengthened. They climbed a ridge blanketed by broadleaf trees. From the crest they spotted a distant metal outline. The comm tower, its top half sticking above greenery like a rusted spear. A hush fell between them, hope mixed with new danger. Drones sometimes recharged near such sites, but the tower also meant possible rescue. As the sky blushed purple, they reached another shallow cave halfway down the far slope. Smaller than the first but dry and hidden, Luke's legs shook from the climb. Yashara offered an arm when he stumbled once, steady as stone. They shared the last fruit and half a ration bar. Luke tried to teach simple words: water, friend, mountain. She repeated each with growing ease, then pointed to herself, tapping her chest twice. She spoke a sequence of syllables he could not catch, but she repeated, slower, "Ya, shot, ra." Then she pointed to him. Luke smiled wide, pointing to himself. "Luke," she nodded, pleased. But he sensed her name held more weight than sound. It was trust offered like the carved token. He bowed his head gently. "Yashara," he repeated, careful with each vowel. The name felt solid, right? Night settled quick. Luke set the emergency blanket across the cave mouth, dark side out. Inside, they curled on opposite sides but close enough. That body heat warmed the air. Outside, owls hunted. Inside, a fragile peace wrapped them. Tomorrow would bring collar removal and the plan for the tower. Though Luke did not yet know how hard that day would be, for now he closed his eyes. Fingers round the spiral stone, hearing again her quiet song from the night before. He let the melody carry him to sleep, trusting that the fierce guardian beside him would keep watch as she had chosen to. Since one simple pat inside a cold glass vault ass checked. Luke woke with stiff shoulders and the damp smell of stone in his nose. Thin light slipped into the cave mouth, catching tiny drops of mist that drifted in from the jungle outside. Yashara sat near the entrance, silent and alert. She had not slept all night. He could tell by the steady way her eyes passed over the dark trees, as if she could feel danger before it arrived. His back ached, and his mind still spun from the escape, but hunger pushed its way forward. He rummaged in his belt pouch for a slim protein bar, then paused and held it out. "You want some?" he asked softly. Yashara looked over her shoulder, head tilted. She sniffed the air, then shook her head once and turned back. Luke guessed the food of humans did not sit well with her. He broke a small piece anyway, laid it on a flat stone between them, and took a slow bite himself. Minutes passed with only the quiet of dripping water. Luke had never liked silence. It gave him time to think of mistakes. He shifted closer to Yashara, staying careful not to crowd her. "Thank you," he whispered. "You saved me last night." Her ears, small and pointed through her silver braids, twitched. She turned halfway, golden eyes locking on his face. The word from the night returned, rough yet clear. "Safe." "Yes," Luke said. "We're safe for now, but they'll look for us." He tapped his chest. "Luke." Then he pointed to her gently. "What's your name?" She blinked, puzzled. He tried again, tapping his own chest. "Luke." Then tapped hers lightly with one finger, leaving space if she wished to draw back. She did not. After several heartbeats, she lifted a hand and pressed her palm flat to her collarbone. "Yeah, shot Ra," she said, shaping each syllable with care. Luke smiled despite himself. "Yashara. That's beautiful." She seemed to test the sound of it, repeating, "Ya dash sha dash Ra." Luke nodded and repeated it too, softer. Then he pointed between them. "Friends." Her brow creased. Without warning, she lifted her right hand and, with the tips of two claws, traced a small circle over the place he had patted her his earlier gesture of kindness. Then she pointed at him, then herself, then spread her arms wide as if guarding. A space. Touch, she said. Mark. Luke tried to follow. He made a patting motion, then tapped his own shoulder. My touch marked you? He asked slowly. She shook her head and tried again, reaching toward him, but stopping short until he gave a tiny nod. Her fingers brushed his shoulder and rested there warm, light. Sure. You, Mark, she said. I keep. She touched her chest. Chosen. The words hit him with more weight than he could measure. Where you're from, he said. APAT is like a bond. She nodded once. Solemn. Luke exhaled. He thought of how simple that moment had been, just a little pat, a gentle comfort for a caged stranger. He had meant nothing more than kindness, but to her it was a promise, perhaps a sacred sign in her culture. Suddenly the fierce way she had protected him made sense. He tried to imagine her life before the crash, the people who spoke her language, the customs around touch and loyalty. Yashara, he said, putting as much respect into his voice as he could. I didn't know. But I'm honored. Her expression softened. A slight upward curve touched her lips, the first shadow of a smile Luke had seen on her. Time slid on. Birds cried in the canopy. Luke's small protein bar felt like poor breakfast for such a talk. Yet Yashara seemed at ease now. So he pushed forward. He opened the mini lamp on his wrist and projected a glow against the cave wall. Then, with a small stick, he drew in the dirt, a rough circle to show her planet, a tiny triangle for her escape pod, and a winding line ending at the science base. She studied his drawing and then knelt beside it. With a claw she added marks, 5 larger circles spiraling around the first planet, like moons or allied worlds. Beside them she drew tall stick figures with long spears. She tapped these figures and said, Kin. Then she jabbed the stick at the base symbol, scratched harsh lines across it, and growled low in her throat. Luke caught the drift. They attacked your rescue group, he asked. She nodded, adding more symbols, a broken spear, a barred cage. Then a smaller figure herself, chain marks on wrists. She touched the chains and hissed. Luke felt tiny and ashamed for the cruel collar still blinking at her throat. We have to remove that, he muttered. He searched his pack for a microdriver tool. Thankfully, the collar's screws matched human standard. He held out the driver, showing her what he meant. May I? Yashara's eyes widened. She lowered her head. Gently he unscrewed the metal clasp. Each click sounded like guilt leaving the air. The collar dropped into his palm. She inhaled deep and slow, rolling her shoulders as if a mountain had lifted off, free. She whispered. Luke set the collar on the dirt and crushed its blinking core beneath a stone. Sparks died under his heel. Free, he echoed. They spent the afternoon trading words. Luke pointed to himself, to trees, to rocks, naming each. Yashara answered in her language. A lyrical set of clicks and low vowels. Their shared lists grew. Sky, water, danger, rest. Thank you. Luke noticed she learned English faster than he learned. Her speech, proving she was indeed intelligent more than the doctors admitted. When dust bled red across the jungle, Yashara lifted her head sharply. Search, she rasped, and tilted an ear toward distant humming. Luke listened hard and caught it too. The faint buzz of scout drones. He cursed under his breath. They started early. Yashara pointed uphill, tracing a zigzag path on the cave wall with her finger. Tower, she said. Luke remembered. The abandoned comm tower that sat beyond a ridge, left from an older mining camp. If they could reach it, they might send a message to someone who would help instead of cage them. But the distance was many kilometers, and drones could track body heat. Luke bit his lip, thinking. We need cover, he said. He pulled a silvery emergency blanket from his pack, thin foil designed to block thermal scans. He draped it over Yashara's shoulders like a cloak, then took the second one for himself, underneath. They would be cooler than the warm-blooded animals roaming outside. Yashara brushed his fingers, nodded approval, and knelt to let Luke climb onto her back. He hesitated, but she murmured, fastest. With that single word, she rose, steady and sure, and slipped from the cave into dense green. The journey was both nightmare and marvel. She darted through vines, leaped fallen trunks, and wove around glowing blue marsh flowers without crushing. A petal. Luke clung tight, burying his face against her braided hair, each breath filled with the sharp scent of wild sap. Overhead, drone lights flickered like pale moons, but never stopped directly above them when they paused by a rushing stream. Luke slid off and splashed water on his face. "How did you learn my language so fast?" he asked. Yashara crouched, dipped her claw tips into the water, and drew small ripples. "Here," she said. "Mind shapes." She pointed to her head, then to his mouth. "Your words, easy." Luke laughed softly. "You're brilliant. That's why." Then a sobering thought struck him. Once we reach the tower, I have a friend on a hauler ship not far from orbit. If I send him our cords, he might risk a pickup, but you'll trust another human. Yashara laid a hand over his pat-marked shoulder again. "Trust you." She lifted her eyes to the jungle ceiling where twin moons peeked between leaves. "You choose who trust." Those simple words felt heavier than the night. Luke swallowed. "I choose well," he promised. They set off again, silent except for breaths and heartbeats. Ahead, a ridge rose black against the deepening sky, and Luke's miniature map said the tower waited beyond. Hope flickered, tiny but bright, behind them. Unseen engines whispered through trees, search teams closing in. But Yashara moved like silver wind, and Luke kept watch on the horizon, guiding her toward a future where chains would never touch her skin again. In that moment, despite fear and fatigue, Luke realized the bond between them was no accident. It was a promise born of one gentle pat, strong enough to turn a hunted warrior into an unbreakable guardian, and a quiet engineer into a partner in freedom. Together, they pushed into the night, ready for whatever dawn would bring. The rain returned as dusk bled into night, turning the jungle path into slick ribbons of mud. Yet Yashara kept moving, her steps light, her sense of balance perfect even on wet stone. Luke trotted beside her now. She had insisted he walk to save her strength for the fight she felt coming. The abandoned comm tower rose ahead, an old steel skeleton, half strangled by vines, its top beacon dark. Luke's heart pounded for two reasons. First, the tower was their only hope of calling Captain Harper's freighter, the Sunrise Trail. Second, search teams were close. Drone lights blinked behind them like cold fireflies. Every rustle of leaves made Luke tense. Reaching the base of the tower, they paused. The door had rusted off its hinges long ago, leaving a jagged gap. Inside lay dusty consoles, cracked screens, and a backup generator that looked ancient even by frontier standards. "We need power," Luke whispered. He knelt, wiped grime from a control panel, and yanked the cover free. Wires spilled like old roots. He clicked on his wrist lamp. Its beam narrow and weak, then started sorting cables by color. Yashara stood, watched at the doorway, cloak fluttering. Every few breaths she sniffed the air, her ears twitching toward distant sounds. Once she hissed low and crouched, claws ready. But the threat drifted away. Luke found the main line burned out. He cursed under his breath, then noticed a dusty battery pack shoved beneath the table. This might still hold a charge. He tugged it free, checked the gauge. 15%. Not much, but maybe enough to power the dish and send a short burst. Jungle wind moaned through broken vents. He connected the pack, fingers steady despite fear, and pressed the reboot key. Sparks jumped, an overhead strip light flickered. The console screen glowed pale green, letters crawling across it. System offline, manual override required. Luke typed quick commands. "Just talk to me, old girl," he muttered. At last the dish motor outside hummed. Rusty gears groaned as the antenna pivoted skyward. He opened the mic channel and tapped a short-coded message. Luke Hart to Sunrise Trail. Urgent evac request. Coordinates attached. Hostile search units inbound. Reply. He hit send. The transmitter buzzed, energy draining the battery fast. For seconds later, a crackling voice came back. "Copy, Luke. This is Harper. I'm 3 hours out. Hold position." Beacon on. Relief flooded Luke, but it lasted only a heartbeat. Through the tower doorway, he saw flashlight beams weaving between trees. Armored figures moved closer, splashing mud. "They're here," Yashara breathed. Luke killed the main lights inside, plunging them into near darkness, except for the screen's glow. Outside, soldiers fanned out, rifles ready, drone lights hovering like ghost lanterns. Search the tower, a voice barked Commander Grant. Security Chief. Luke knew that stern tone too well. Yashara placed a clawed hand on Luke's shoulder. Hide, she whispered. No, he said. We stand together. But a quick plan formed in his mind. He pulled two emergency flares from his pack and slipped one to her. Bright and loud. Use it if you must blind them, she nodded. Footsteps clanged up the outer stairs. Yashara melted into a shadow by the doorway, cloak draped over metal beams. Luke crouched behind the main console, heart drumming. Grant stepped inside, flashlight sweeping. Luke, he called, trying polite first. Come out, we just want. The alien. Luke rose slowly, hands spread, staying between Grant and the dark corner where Yashara hid. She has a name, he said, voice shaking but loud. Yashara. She's not a specimen. And she's done nothing wrong. Grant sighed. She broke out, kidnapped you, injured 3 guards. Guard injuries happen after you shot at her. Luke fired back. Grant signaled to soldiers to flank left. I'm giving you one chance. Engineer, step aside. Metal creaked behind Grant. Yashara's warning growl. She stepped into the dim beam of light, eyes glowing gold. The soldiers froze. Grant swallowed hard. Trank darts, he ordered. Rifles lifted. Before they fired, Yashara yanked the flare string. White fire exploded, filling the room with blinding glare and sulfur smoke. Soldiers staggered, choking. Yashara moved like lightning, knocking rifles aside with open palms, not claws. She pushed one man into a console, but didn't strike killing blows, only disabling hits. Luke used the chaos to grab Grant's comm tablet from his belt. Base protocols treat sentient beings with rights. He snapped, showing a clause on the screen. Section 9, Paragraph 2. Forced detainment is illegal without proof of threat. Grant blinked through tears from the flare's after image. She is a threat. No, Luke said. Voice calm now. She protected me. You're the threat to her freedom. Outside. More troops gathered at the stairwell. Yashara barred the doorway, chest rising and falling slowly, like a cat ready to pounce if pushed. Luke stepped beside her, still holding Grant's tablet. My captain arrives in 3 hours. Luke announced to the soldiers. He has full authority as a civilian hauler to accept refugees. Let us go, and this ends without injury. The troops hesitated, uncertain. From below, a doctor's voice echoed up. Commander, tranquilizers won't work fast enough. Her metabolism burns them off. Grant clenched his jaw. New orders, he said. Net guns. Capture both. Luke's pulse spiked. He whispered. To Yashara, roof exit. She nodded. Together they backed up the narrow iron ladder that climbed inside the tower's spine. Shotgun nets fired, whizzing past, entangling in consoles. Sparks burst as wiring ripped out. Up on the roof platform, wind lashed their faces. Moonlight painted silver edges on every beam. The dish rotated slowly, beacon light pulsing bright so Harbor could track them. Yashara pulled a fallen pipe across the hatch, wedging it. Below, soldiers hammered at the trapdoor. Luke scanned the horizon. Drones approached like glowing insects. He toggled the beacon brighter, hoping the extra signal would guide the freighter. Faster, though it drained the battery faster too. They can climb outside, Yashara warned, pointing to metal rungs along the outer wall. Luke winced. We can't fight forever. Just then, a thunderous boom echoed high above. Sonic's signature of a ship dropping into low atmosphere. A streak of orange fire cut across the sky, growing larger. COMMS crackled on Grant's channel, still clipped to Luke's belt. Harbor's voice roared. This is Captain Harper of the Sunrise Trail. Lower your weapons, or I will deploy defense drones. My ship's log records all actions for interstellar court review. Soldiers hesitated. Some lowered rifles. Grant barked, hold. Steady, but doubt flickered in his eyes. Harper continued. My scanners show your squad targeting to registered civilians. Disengage or face penalties. Luke leaned over the guardrail. Commander, listen. This is bigger than orders. Treat her as a person. Let us go. Rain lashed harder, thunder rolling. Grant finally exhaled, mind racing between duty and legality. He pressed his earpiece, likely getting updated instructions from headquarters. One word slipped out, stand by. Minutes stretched like hours. The freighter roared overhead, its belly thrusters kicking dust and leaves into spirals, to drone. Escorts unfolded railgun pods. Harper's Bluff might become real fire. Grant raised a hand to his men. Fall back, rifles lowered for good. Soldiers retreated down the stairs. Yashara stayed crouched, still wary. But when the last helmet disappeared beneath vines, she looked at Luke, relief shining in her eyes. The freighter dropped an aerial lift platform beside the tower. Harper's voice boomed again. Softer, rides here, folks. Luke turned to Yashara. Wind whipped her braids, and raindrops glittered on her gray-blue skin. He reached out. Palm up, come on. Let's leave these chains behind for good. She placed her hand in his gentle, strong. Together they stepped onto the lift as cables hauled them skyward toward the ship's open bay. Below, the jungle and its hunters faded into wet darkness. Above, freedom waited. For the first time since the patrol ship had captured her, Yashar breathed without walls around her. For the first time in his life, Luke felt the weight of someone else's trust sit easy on his shoulders. Their journey wasn't over. Courts, governments, and distant stars still lay ahead. But as the sunrise trail sealed its hatch and angled for orbit, they knew they would face it together, an engineer who gave a single pat of kindness, and a warrior who would guard him like a predator chosen by destiny, ass checked. The cargo bay doors of the sunrise trail slid shut with a deep clang, sealing out the jungle night and the search team's last shouts. Luke felt the ship's artificial gravity stabilize, a low hum running through the decking as thrusters lifted them toward orbit. Flood lamps splashed the bay in soft yellow, painting long shadows behind tall cargo crates marked for distant colonies. Captain Harper jogged down the catwalk, rain still dripping from his coat. His grizzled face cracked a relieved smile when he spotted Luke. Kid, you look like you wrestled a thunderstorm. Close enough, Luke said, wiping mud from his cheeks. He turned, gesture wide. Captain, this is Yashara. Yashara stood beside a crate, posture wary but unthreatening. Her silver-braided hair clung damp against her gray-blue skin. Gold eyes watched every new crew member with sharp focus, yet she did not bear claws. She seemed to sense the difference here. No cages, no trank guns, only curious looks. Harper rested a hand on a guardrail, sizing her up. Welcome aboard, Yashara. My rules are simple. Nobody harms my crew, and my crew harms nobody without cause. Treat us fair. We do the same. He offered a half bow, more respectful than friendly. Yashara dipped her head in return. Safe, she said, voice low but clear. Harper flashed his grin at Luke. I think we understand each other. Then he turned to the bay intercom, closed all bulkheads, set course for Deep Space Lane 12. Jump prep in 30. As klaxons chirped, Harper pulled Luke aside. Listen, kid, I filed a refugee claim for her under the Sentience Protection Act, but planetary security already logged her as dangerous. We'll get pursuit notices when they realize we slipped out. If their lawyers reach Union Command first, they'll paint us smugglers. Luke's stomach tightened. How long until the claim reaches the Union Court? About 18 hours if the relays stay clear. Harper said. He tapped a knuckle. On the bulkhead, you need Yashara's testimony, recorded proof she's not some beast. He cocked an eyebrow. Think she'll trust the camera? Luke glanced at Yashara. She scanned a row of loading drones but stayed calm. She trusts me. He said, I'll explain. 2 hours later, in a modest crew lounge, Luke set up a recorder. Yashara sat opposite him on a couch designed for human frames, legs folded, tail of her cloak draped over the armrest. The hum of faster-than-light engines thrummed beneath their feet, soothing a steady rain. The device will remember your words, Luke explained slowly, using the shared gestures they'd practiced. He pointed to the lens, then to a holopad, showing Union symbols for safe passage. We tell them your story. They listen. They judge. Yashara touched the pad, tracing the star emblem. Truth, she said. Then she lifted her gaze. You ask, Luke activated the recorder. State your name, Yashara. Your people, we are called the Vashk, hunters of the tall grass worlds. Her voice carried a rhythm like drums over rolling hills. Luke asked about her capture. She spoke of a rescue mission gone wrong, Vashk scouts tracking another crashed shuttle carrying civilians. A human patrol had intercepted them, misread their defensive stance as aggression, and opened fire. Her squad scattered. She was stunned and taken in chains to the science base. Each word came slow but firm, eyes bright with memory. She described the collar that shocked her nerves, the glass vault that stank of fear, and the moment Luke's gentle pat landed on her shoulder. She pressed a palm to that spot now, voice softening. In Vashk law, first touch with open palm means shared breath, shared path. He did not know. Yet still he offered kindness. She met the lens, gold eyes steady. So I guard him, too. Guard him is to honor breath. Luke swallowed the tightness in his throat. He closed the testimony with a final question. What do you ask of the Union? Freedom. Yashar said, in a place where no chain waits for open hands. The recorder chimed. File complete. Dawn ship time found Luke in the navigation bay, pacing. Harbor leaned over a console, monitoring secure channels. Red alerts flashed. Warrant issued an authorized extraction of classified specimen vessel Sunrise Trail to be detained. They're quick, Harbor muttered. Security frigate Vigilance already on intercept vector. At 9 hours, Luke ran a hand through messy hair. We can't outrun a military frigate. No, Harbor agreed. But we can get to neutral station Delta Sierra before them. Station law shields refugees till hearings conclude. We're for ours, Scifi. We pushed the drive. He slapped a button. Engine room, give me 10% overrated thrust. Hold till the coils glow. Metal groaned under the strain, but the ship surged faster. Yashara entered quietly. Sensing trouble, Luke explained, a bigger ship chases us. We head to safe station. He pointed on the star map to dots racing toward the same beacon. She nodded, shoulders squaring. Later, in the mess hall, crew whispers followed her. Some stared. Others offered cautious smiles. Wrench, the burly mechanic, slid a plate of fruit toward her. Vitamin boost, he grunted. Yashara sniffed, sampled a piece, then dipped her head in thanks. Small steps, Luke thought. Culture bridging by shared food. An hour out from Delta Sierra, proximity alarms wailed. Harbor's voice crackled over speakers. All hands, brace. Vigilance just jumped early intercept in 5 minutes. Luke raced to the bridge. The view screen showed a gray spear of a warship sliding from warp, weapons ports glowing. Comms lit up, freighter Sunrise Trail. Cut engines and prepare for boarding. Failure to comply will be met with force. Harper shot Luke a grim look. Union law says they can't fire on us while we carry a pending refugee, but some captains trust guns over rules. Yashar stepped beside Luke, gaze narrowing at the looming frigate. Fight? Only if they shoot first, Harper said, fingers dancing over shields. Luke opened a channel. This is Engineer Luke Hart. We hold a sentient refugee under Section 9 protections. Union case file attached. Your pursuit violates Code 17. He transmitted the recorded testimony. Silence stretched. On screen, the frigate's forward cannons charged but did not fire. Then a second message buzzed in from Delta Sierra Traffic Control. Security frigate Vigilance. Stand down. Refugee claim acknowledged. Docking priority granted to Sunrise Trail. Any aggression will be logged for judicial review. 10 seconds passed. The frigate's lights dimmed. Thrusters pivoted away. A curt reply. Acknowledged. Monitoring only. Cheers erupted on the bridge. Harper exhaled hard. Well, bless the bureaucracy today. Delta Sierra Station loomed like a metal flower around a spinning central stem. Docking clamps gripped the freighter. Luke led Yashara onto the concourse-wide arcs of glass overlooking star-flecked void. Officials in blue robes bowed lightly and scanned her biometrics, tagging the case with high priority due to the patrol's earlier mishandling. In a quiet waiting chamber, Union advocate Sania Oberon greeted them, a tall woman with kind eyes and a datapad full of law. Codes of the recording you made is powerful, she told Yashara. It shows self-awareness, cultural depth, and intent of peace. Combined with evidence of wrongful capture, your chances are excellent. Luke squeezed Yashara's hand. See, truth helps. The advocate arranged a hearing schedule, preliminary review in 3 days, full tribunal within 2 weeks, until then, Yashara would stay in a guest suite on the station free to roam certain zones, escorted by her chosen companion. She chose Luke, of course. Their suite overlooked a garden dome where blue leaf trees shimmered under artificial suns. That evening, sipping warm herb tea, Luke asked, when the court grants asylum, "What will you do?" Yashara thought a long moment, tail of her cloak curled around her knees. First, she said, learn more words. She tapped her temple. Strong mind must grow. Then her eyes shone. Second, find my kin. Tell them humans can be gentle. She placed a claw over Luke's heart. Tell them about the path that changed to lives. Luke smiled, feeling the echo of that first gentle touch. And after that, she looked out at the stars beyond the glass. Hunt the sky not for prey, but for wonders. With you, if you wish. Luke's chest warmed. I've always wanted to see what lies past the next nebula, she offered. Her hand, he took it. In the days that followed, Union medics removed the last subdermal tracker from Yashara's wrist. Linguists traded language lessons with her. In return, she demonstrated vast tracking skills in the station's arboretum, astonishing biologists with how she read plant scents like open books. School children asked for stories of tall grass worlds, and she spoke softly about twin suns and night hunts where stars guided her people's steps. News feeds picked up the story. Alien warrior gains freedom thanks to rights. Applause filled the hall. Yashara bowed to the judges, then turned to Luke. She raised her hand. Palm opened the gesture of shared breath, shared path. Luke mirrored it. Palms meeting in midair, outside the court chamber. Harper waited with 2 boarding passes for his newly charted survey voyage. My ship still needs an engineer, he teased, and maybe a security chief who can scare pirates with one stare. Yashara,